Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. This is the second day of Politico's Agri-Food Summit. My name is Eddie Wax, and I'm here to introduce our second day. We're thrilled to launch Friday with, it's virtually, but nonetheless, we hope you will enjoy the conversations that will take place throughout the day today. We're convening some of Europe's biggest thinkers and most influential policymakers to discuss how Europe's agriculture and food sectors can be more green, innovative, and competitive. So we're going to discuss these challenges, the challenges to Europe's food supply and supply chains, explore key issues at stake, such as the Green Deal and the Common Agricultural Policy, and all of this in the light of Europe's recovery. We'll also look at food and agriculture from various non-EU perspectives. But before we begin today, which will be with an interview with Spain's Luis Planas in just a few minutes, I'd just like to mention a few housekeeping rules and also introduce a short video from one of our partners. So onto the rules quickly. You can ask questions and answer poll questions only through the Politico Events app. It's very easy to find on your smartphones. And once you open the app, you have to go to the item Program and click on the relevant session. For instance, welcoming remarks and opening interview, and then click on the tab Video Feed. We want to make this event as interactive as possible. Obviously, it's virtual, so this really counts. So don't hesitate to submit your questions and tweet about this event using the hashtag #PoliticoAgriFood. So I would like to thank our partners Corteva and Tetra Pak for making this event possible. And speaking of which, Anne Alonso has some welcoming remarks to open this second day of the summit.
Even if it's via this virtual world we've all grown accustomed to lately. Thank you, Politico, for bringing us together and doing so with such great agility. I hope to reconnect in person when safer days are with us again. So today, I'd like to accomplish a couple of things. First, I'd like to talk about Corteva AgriScience's vision for sustainable agriculture and how we see it benefiting our farmers in Europe. And second, I wish to share some thoughts on how we in business, government, and civil society sectors can all work together to enable a better future for Europe's farmers, communities, land, and natural resources. Indeed, one of the themes of this year's conference is, can we have it all? Can we build economically viable farms that produce extraordinary food while protecting the land, resources, and people who make it all possible? We at Corteva not only think so, we bet our future on it. Before we get into the specifics of that discussion, though, allow me to quickly share a little bit more about who we are at Corteva. So back in June of 2019, we stood up a company that went to market with about $14 billion in sales, 20,000 plus people, 140 countries served, and supported by 140 R&D facilities, 13,000 patents, and 65 plus active ingredients. We brought together the combined resources of Dow and DuPont, including some of their legacy businesses like Pioneer, to serve farmers and ranchers with the innovative products and services they need. In effect, we took two companies that already had strong portfolios of seed and crop protection and made them even stronger. In crop protection, we emerged with a completely intact and high-performing R&D organization from Dow, plus a large component of DuPont's pipeline. We combined this all with a strong collective knowledge base on how to launch new products. In seeds, we combined the trait discovery capability of Dow with Pioneer's best in the industry germplasm and trait integration capability. Our scale makes us a key player in helping growers meet the demands of a rising population. And we have people on the ground in the field who have developed personal relationships with farmers over the past 90 years, ever since the launch of Pioneer's seed back in Johnston, Iowa. All of this gives us unique insights into farmers' needs. When we stood up Corteva, we also made a bold promise to ourselves and to the world. As the world's largest pure-play agriculture company, we knew we had a profound responsibility to shape a new kind of business, one that was passionate about improving the lives of farmers, consumers, and communities. and one that was deeply committed to safeguarding the environment that sustains life and this remarkable industry. Together, we laid out a very simple but powerful purpose: to enrich the lives of those who produce and those who consume, ensuring progress for generations to come. It's a mission that we believe is very much aligned with the European Green Deal broad objectives. We also look forward to contributing to a robust assessment of the impact of the European Commission's biodiversity and farm-to-fork strategy. With these and other relevant policy goals, we have a great hope for collaborative solutions to enable an environmentally sustainable, food-secure world. As we navigate into this new realm, we believe there is no better time to pledge to protect and preserve the source of our food and help our farmers and ag communities to thrive. The events of the past several months have made perfectly clear that our calling and indeed our promise to the world have never been more important. While no one truly has a crystal ball, one thing we do know about the future of agriculture and food production is that the status quo is not an option. It is not an option here in Europe nor anywhere around the world. Well, why? For starters, we have to double productivity in just the next 30 years to stay on course. And we will have to do it while protecting the land, water, and air resources that make food production possible. The good news is that collectively we have the innovation, acumen, and intellectual capital to create an environmentally sustainable, food-secure world. But it's going to require more targeted innovation investments, more collaboration across all stakeholders, and an even greater focus on the needs of the world's farmers and consumers. In fact, we've outlined several of these actions in a new sweeping strategy we recently announced, one we call our Enriching Lives Together Sustainability Strategy. The strategy focuses on 14 specific goals. These goals are all grouped under 4 pillars of bettering the lives of farmers, protecting our land and natural resources, improving our communities, and benefiting our operations. We've set our sights high on what we hope to achieve over the next 10 years, including new training to 25 million farmers on soil health, nutrient and water stewardship, as well as productivity best practices. In Europe, we've already started a number of Corteva-led sustainability initiatives, including a partnership with Copa-Cogeca to promote gender equality in agriculture across the continent. Over the past year, we also launched a program we call Talenta, which provides educational and financial support to women farmers. Today, the Talenta program is up and running in Spain, in Portugal, Romania, and the Ukraine, in partnership with the United Nations, and we look forward to expanding it to other markets across the continent as women continue to play an increasingly vital role in Europe and the world's agriculture development. Additionally, we've set a target to help farmers sustainably increase crop yields by 20%, while also reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 20% within cropping systems. One example of this application here in Europe is via a solution we developed called NLOC with Optonite technology, which reduces greenhouse gas emissions from fertilization by 40%. It's a proven nitrogen management tool for European and global sustainable agriculture, mitigating the impacts of climate change. Complementing this work are the investments we're making in natural origin crop protection solutions or biologicals. All of this is aligned with the broader goal of improving crop, soil, and environmental health. Of course, no environmental issue today is more pressing than climate change. Over the past 2 years, we've held meetings with leaders from business, government, and civil society to discuss ways to work together to create a climate-positive agriculture industry. Many of these discussions have taken place right here in Europe, including a gathering last year in the Netherlands. We're using these and other insights to develop a comprehensive strategy to deal with agricultural greenhouse gas emissions. We'll be announcing the plan and our reduction targets for the next decade in June of 2021. On the climate front, among other initiatives, we're lending a hand with the Biogas Project in Italy, which is a 360-degree management support service for biogas plants aimed at building a zero-impact production system. By 2030, we also have targets set for enhancing soil health on 30 million hectares of land and working with farmers and ranchers to improve biodiversity on 10 million hectares. We'll also be working diligently with local communities and agencies to empower more women farmers, engage more youth, and provide the highest standards of training and safety for our people. In the weeks and months ahead, we'll be communicating these and other actions across a broad variety of communication channels as we look to inform and engage more stakeholders in these efforts. Whether you're involved in agriculture and agribusiness directly or indirectly, we believe you can help influence the way we go about protecting the planet, empowering farmers, and providing customers with more nutritious food. As a business, civic, or organizational leader, your voice carries weight. Working together, it's imperative that all our voices are heard, especially those of our farmers. We need smart, informed, and rigorous impact assessments of all proposals and policies as they relate to the European Green Deal or any policies impacting farming and farmers' livelihoods. We stand ready to help with these efforts while advocating for our farmers here in Europe. We need your help, though, in supporting technologies, entrepreneurs, and innovative sustainability models that have an impact on farming. We need your voices in support of policymaking that is grounded in sound science. We need your best and brightest young minds in this extraordinary industry. And perhaps most importantly, we all need to listen to our farmers and make sure we never lose track of the very fundamental goal of agriculture, which is to produce food that feeds the world. Indeed, producing food must always remain the primary objective of agriculture. That's the philosophy that guides our business and our multi-million-dollar R&D investments every year. Imagine what we can do together with these investments. If we collaborate on best practices, if we advocate on science-based policies, if we keep our farmers and farming communities at the center of all that we do, there's no limit to what we can accomplish. So thank you all for your time and for your attention today. And thanks to Politico and all of you for your engagement at this very important conference. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Now we can crack on and finally introduce Spain's Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Food, Luis Planas. Senor Planas, can you hear us?
Yes, good morning. Happy to join you.
Fantastic. We can hear you loud and clear. We've got 25 minutes, and I've got a host of issues that I want to raise with you. I'll just give a quick introduction about you. I mean, obviously, you know this yourself, but I think some of our viewers will be interested in knowing your distinctly European career. You were the Spanish ambassador to the EU. You've also been Spain's ambassador to Morocco. You have been an MEP as well. And you were recently the Secretary General of the European Economic and Social Committee, so you know Brussels extremely well. Since 2018, you have been the Agriculture Minister of Spain, surviving a reshuffle and a new coalition government being formed as well. So you've got bags of experience. And I want to kick off by, the structure of our conversation today, I think, we'll talk about Spain's own particular food and farming issues. Then I want to talk to you about Spain's role in the EU and the work you're doing in Brussels, which is very crucial right now. And then we'll expand the conversation and talk about the international dimension and international trade and diplomacy. And I know you know that area very well as well. So my first question, we started this year in Spain with huge amounts of protests from farmers, which has kind of been swept away in the coronavirus crisis, which started in March. But can you explain to us why Spain's farmers are so angry?
Well, I think that Spanish farmers are defending their own rights and think that they have to have the benefits of the work they and the goods that they produce that are the high quality ones. I have to say that they are, in fact, I think, farmers have been in this crisis during the pandemic has been, can we say, reassuring the position in the society. Everyone, the public opinion, the citizens, we know how important, how essential are for all of us. So I think that in this sense, this position has been reinforced. Concerning the position of the Spanish farmers, I think that we have a very competitive sector, agri-food sector. In fact, we had the last figures, and during the last months, not only the GDP has grown very significantly, 6.5% on a yearly basis, and if we take exports, they have increased to an amount of more than 45,000 million euros, and with a surplus of 16,000 million euros, what means that we are growing. And I think that the question is always the fair balance between inside the supply chain, between the different producers, the industry, and the retail. And they think that they are, in this sense, not very well treated, and they want more of the benefits that the work that they produce. That's the key of the things, and I think that we have succeeded to have a very good achievement on the negotiations of the European Council on the 21st of July. I think that there is a good amount for the next challenges that we have to face, and I think that altogether we will can succeed. I think for the forthcoming years and the forthcoming period.
Okay, I just want to continue on this line of questioning because you talked about the global aspect, GDP, these big things. But when I speak to Spanish farmers, they tell me the price of food is simply not high enough. People are paying dirt cheap, prices in supermarkets at discounted rates. We've had other European ministers, for example, Julia Klöckner of Germany, saying this year that food is too cheap. Do you think food is too cheap?
Well, I think Julia is right. I think that we have a problem. We talk always about CAP and the next challenge, and probably we will do today. But I think that the supply chain and can we say the balance between the different factors and the producers and the industry and the retail are key. And what our producers are saying, I think that on the end they have less earnings that they deserve because of their work and what they produce. On the end, citizens are the ones that decide in elections, deciding about governments and parliaments, but decide always about food because they choose one food instead of another and pay one price instead of another one. So is why I think this question, and we have to integrate now the directive of 2019 on the Spanish legislation. But I have been attending yesterday the Agriculture Committee of the Third Chamber of the Spanish Parliament, and we were just discussing this issue. And I think it's a key one for the months to come. Probably the one with the CAP, that is the key one for our farmers.
Okay, I think the directive you were just talking about is the directive on unfair trading practices, which needs to be translated into Spanish law and implemented there. You're also in Spain you're also revising the Spanish food chain law from 2013. Is that right? Tell us a little bit about that and how much progress you're making on that and why it will make a difference.
Yes, I think that's a very interesting point because that was, can we say, myself and government's reaction to the demonstration we had in January and February before the beginning of the state of alarm and the development of the COVID-19 crisis. I have to say that we have taken very, can we say, very concrete decisions concerning preemptive translation to Spanish law of the directive. I will introduce during this fall the full text of the draft law to the Spanish Parliament, but I think there are three basic things that we have to do. One is to put more balance, more equilibrium in the relation between the different, as I said, segments for the producers, the industry, and the retail. The second one, and I think is a key one, is to have more transparency in all the price formation process, just to know how this increase and the value creation of value is being done and can be increased. And on the end, we have to protect the ones that are the less protected in this, not only through the law, because I think that is very, very important to have other things in mind. For example, the capacity of the farmers itself to increase the degree of organization, the factor about how not only to produce but to sell better and to have and to achieve better prices and better benefits. So many aspects that also with inclusion and with in Spanish law of the directive, the European directive, can be not only discussed but expanded, because this law, as you know, this directive, it expands to EU, coverage, what was just national law. So I think very interesting discussion for the months to come, and something that can be, I think, very favorable to the interests, as also Julia was saying, Julia Klockner, to the interests of our farmers.
Okay, let's just talk about a few more things on the national level of Spain. Although obviously everything is interconnected. The coronavirus crisis, we saw it leading to mountains of cheese, mountains of wine, lakes of wine, all these sorts of things of sort of underconsumption or underdemand and overproduction almost. In particular, in Spain, we've had problems with olive oil in the olive oil sector, and we've had problems in the wine sector. You can tell me if there are other things that we should be talking about as well. But how are you dealing with those two sectors at the moment, and what are you asking Brussels in particular to do?
Well, your question is very interesting, but it's covering a lot of sectors and a lot of different situations. I think that if I said it before, if we have to have an overall judgment of what has been of the behavior of all agri-food sector during this crisis, I think that has been very, very positive. It's clear, figures are there, but also the public opinion feeling concerning farmers. I think that's very clear. People working in the health services, security forces, and farmers are the three that are in the best considered and best rewarded by the public opinion. Concerning the concrete sectors you mentioned, the situation is very different. For example, wine is a good example, and quality wine, about the situation and the problem that we have not only in Spain but in Europe and the rest of the world about the HoReCa sector. When we talk about quality wine, we are talking about selling more than 2/3, more than 60% in the HoReCa sector, restaurants, bars, and others. So that means that in this situation, all the sales have decreased a lot, and we have a serious problem about that. And I think that this situation will not recover in a very short term, and we have to face the situation. It's the same that I have been discussing with my colleagues in France, for example. So it's not so unfamiliar. The olive oil case is a very special one, because we are the world leaders and we have a very particular situation. And I think that there is a clear and a question about supply and demand. I am a great defender, and I think that defender and about olive oil qualities, and I think that is a healthy product and is expanding markets in the world. For example, see the United States, even with the US tariffs, we are increasing presence there. But the problem in China or in Japan, but the problem is about that we have a very, sector that is not, an homogeneous one. We have the very traditional producers from zones where is an artisanal work, and we have producers that doing on an industry basis. Every one of them are doing a legitimate and honest work, but the costs of production are very different. So the problem is that in the prices of selling to the public or selling to the customers, the price is not so far, with very different cost of production. And this is something not only that I have as a Spanish minister to address. I have presented in June 10 concrete initiatives, and we are working on that because we have to arrange not only the questions of the disbalance between supply and demand, but quality issues and traceability ones. And I think if we succeed, we are world leaders, so we have to behave and to act at that. But I am optimistic about the future of the sector.
We've got a couple of questions coming in on the Q&A, which I will come to in a moment. But let's turn to the EU element of our discussion, because I think we've only got about 12 minutes left already, so already running out of time, having just begun. On the CAP reform, so the Common Agricultural Policy, everybody's aware. It's a huge policy. It's a real plank of the EU. At the moment, EU governments, including your own, are trying to come to an agreement by next month under the German presidency of the EU. However, there are rumblings and there are criticisms that this proposal will water down the environmental ambition of the European Commission, which came up with its proposal in 2018. So, firstly, are people right to worry that you are watering down the green ambition of the CAP, and particularly on the point of these areas of natural constraint, so mountain areas? You wrote a declaration with France this week, ahead of the Agri-Fish Council on Monday, in which you want the mountainous areas, the subsidies which go to those areas which aren't green subsidies, according to the Commission, you want them to be counted towards that green budget. So how do you answer to those two questions?
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's begin by the first issue you mentioned. I think that is feasible. We need an agreement, and an early agreement. I think that the German presidency is doing a very good job, and we support the German presidency to achieve an agreement and to begin the discussions with the European Parliament to have, can we say, early next year, the legislation published in the official journal. We need it. If you take into account the fact that the entry into force of the new CAP will be done on the 1st of January 2023, that will mean 5 years of discussion. 5 years of discussion from the time that the first proposal by the European Commission were presented. I think it's too much time. Our farmers need to know how they have to produce and what are the support that we're getting for the next years to come, and taking into account what we have, can we say, as challenges for the next years, and the ones you mentioned about climate change and environment. So I think that this is a key aspect, and we have to take into account the three aspects of the sustainability. The economic sustainability, because we need that our farms are in fact profitable. If they are not profitable, there are no farms, and they are not climate change fight, and we are not preserving the environment. And also because of the social change, about demographics, about the fact that we have 2/3 in Spain, and is more or less the EU average, 2/3 of our active population in the primary sector that is 55 or above. So I think that we need this expediently, that this change about the new CLP happens. About the concrete question about environment, I didn't agree with about this comment, because in fact, if we take the reinforced conditionality that we will have in the first pillar, you take the eco schemes, and for me, the eco schemes are key for the new green design of the CAP. If you take the measures on the second pillar, on the rural development, altogether, means, as the European Council had decided, that we have to achieve for the whole period at least a 40% support to the climate, the fight against climate change, and the preservation of our soil, our water, our air, our biodiversity, and our landscape. So I think that is perfectly achievable. I understand there is always a fight, can we say, in one side, can we say, between, can we say, agriculture ministers and environmental defenders. I have an excellent relation. We have a very active dialogue. And I have to say that we can achieve all together at the same time the environmental and the fight against climate change goals, and at the same time to preserve our farming activity that is needed.
Okay, let's just have one more question on the sort of green ambition of the CAP. We have the Farm to Fork strategy under the European Green Deal, a flagship initiative of the European Commission published in May. But there's not going to be any legal link, is there, between the actual Green Deal, which only came out in 2020, and the CAP, which was proposed in 2018. So why, what's Spain's position on that? When you send your strategic plan to Brussels to be approved, if Brussels says to you, no, you're not being ambitious enough, you're not protecting Spain's water, you're not doing enough for climate change, et cetera, what will you say? Will you say, no, sorry, Brussels, there's no legal ability for you to reject our plan?
No, your question, I think, is a very right one, and I have to say that is not an easy issue to solve. Just to understand, I mentioned 5 years just a moment ago. The proposals on the financial issues on budget were done in May 2018. The one of the reform of the regulations were done in June 2018. The ones on farm to fork and the biodiversity strategy have been done in May 2020. There has been a different political cycle, European elections, new commission, Green Pact. I fully understand that. But we have to see how we fit that in, and at the same time, we didn't delay the process. And as you said, we give, can we say, legal certainty to our farmers and to the whole society. That can be done. I think so, because in fact, we have been working for many months in the preparation of the draft of the National Strategic Plan, and many of the issues to the farm to fork have been addressed. So I think that yes, there is a question mark, and we have to clarify the issue of the legal certainty and the legal base and the question of the impact assessment of the very concrete goals, taking into account the figures. But I think the mainstream and Spain, can we say, fully supports the farm to fork strategy. And I think that we always mention we have 3 aspects that we have to clarify. One is the one related to the legal base and the impact assessment. The second one is about the budget, and the one of the budget has been solved by the European Council. And the third one is about the flexibility of the implementation. And I think that if we take the 3 all together, I think that we'll be capable to deal with. I am optimistic about it. Will not be easy. We are discussing the Council again on the German presidency in October. But I think that we can give can we say, an indication? And if from the Commission side and from Parliament side and from us, from the Council, I think that is an open view, and we are all of us constructive. We can we say, have this link as you mentioned.
We've only got 4 minutes left, so I need to turn to the international dimension of things. On the Mercosur trade agreement, we've heard a lot of criticism from Germany. We've heard France saying they will not ratify the Mercosur trade agreement. Both of those major heavyweight EU countries are citing deforestation, rising deforestation in the Amazon, for the reason why this EU-South America trade deal cannot go ahead. But what is Spain's position on the deal? Will you sign it?
Let me do. I will answer your question, but let me do. Can we say a comment following your last question on farm to fork and trade issues? I think that there is an internal dimension of the regulations we are introducing. It is true that the regulatory basis of the EU, I think, that is the highest standard that we have in the world, not only about food safety but about environment and social standards. So I think that we have to have that as a starting point. So when we are talking about others and having trade agreements with third countries, we have to take into account that there is an external aspect of our regulatory issues, and there is an European model of agri-food sector, and we have to project that. In fact, Pascal Lamy was saying some weeks ago that the debate about the last years were where things were produced, including food. Now the question is what regulations and who does the regulation about? And I think that EU with the United States and China, we are key to that. And I think that we are in a very, very good position, and that's linked what your question about Mercosur, to have very clear standards about. We have an offensive interest, we have as EU, and Spain is part of the EU, and Spain is the 4th exporting country of the EU and the 8th country of the world in the agri-food sector, exporting country. So we have offensive interests, but also we have defensive interests, and we have also regulatory interests. And I think this regulatory interest means that our farmers, but also our consumers, have to have the same standards when they get, can we say, their food and their products from third countries. I think that is a very clear
allow you to do that. Sorry.
Sorry?
I just want to say, in a nutshell, you're explaining how the EU has high standards. We only have 1 minute left, and I want to squeeze in one more question. In a nutshell, it sounds like you're supportive of the Mercosur agreement, even though you're saying that we have to, make sure that we have higher standards in the EU.
We have to ensure that what is inside the agreement is accomplished. And I fully understand that there are member countries and parliaments that have question marks, but I have to say that if we are serious, both parts, the EU and the Mercosur countries, have to implement as we have signed it. So this is part of the debate, and we have to see what it's about.
Okay, last question, probably the last question, depending on how quick your answer is, because we've only got 1 minute left. You're basically hoping for Joe Biden to be the next US president, right? Because of all the tariffs on agricultural goods from Spain, such as olive oil, cheese, wine, that Donald Trump has put on it. You're backing Biden, right?
Well, I have to say that the 3rd of November elections are key for the United States, but are key for the European Union and for the world, and we will see what happens. My comment the other day in the Council was very clear. We have to be prepared for any scenario about that. And concerning the Airbus case and the coming Boeing case, what is not, can we say, a normal thing is that our producers, our farmers are affected by, can we say, a question of public aid concerning building planes. They have nothing in common, and we have to stick, can we say, something so important and so sensible for our citizens as is agri-food trade. But I hope there is a chance to solve it in the forthcoming months.
Okay, and the last question, I'm taking one from the Q&A from Asaja, so that's Spain's largest farming union. I'm sure you're very familiar with it. Jose Maria Castilla Barro, who's the head of the Brussels wing. It's a question that I really wanted to raise as well. It doesn't really tie in with US tariffs very well, but nonetheless, it's about Nutri-Score, which is this front-of-pack labeling system, which I think Spain has said it's favorable to. However, Asaja seems not to be in favor of it. There's one other additional question I want to add, on it. He wants to know what is Spain's position and why you're still backing it. But I also want to know, Italy, which has a very similar sort of Mediterranean diet to Spain, is completely against it. So why is Spain backing it when Italy, your neighbor there, is against it?
Excuse me, I cannot answer your question in 30 seconds, but I will give you just a message about what we need is an EU regulation. The models that are being applied are all of them have positive and negative aspects. Concerning the Mediterranean products, as a Spanish minister, as an Italian minister, as a French minister, as a Portuguese minister, we are very, very strong defenders of our products because they are healthy ones, and the Mediterranean diet, I think, is a key point on that. But that being said, I don't think that is a very technical issue. The position of Spain, we are in favor to have an EU regulation, and we have just discussed in the Council about that. And I will not accept any, can we say, any labeling that is again not only about our interests, but of the truth of the health benefits of the Mediterranean products.
Okay, so the final question, you're not saying that you're definitely going to choose Nutri-Score. You won't be coming to the European table saying we want to use Nutri-Score.
Yes, is that? Well, there has been 3 final questions. For this last final question.
I know, I'm not being told off properly yet, so this is the final question.
Excuse me for the joke. No, I have to say that that Spain is working on the Nutri-Score, but this Nutri-Score will include the characteristics of the Mediterranean products. We have, I understand, my good friend Teresa Bellanova, the Italian friends have another view about the issue. They raise it in the Council, but it's true that inside the European Union, France have a similar one to the ones we have ourselves, or Belgium or Germany. They are different views, but for me, the key aspect is that the Mediterranean products are treated on a fair way. For me, is the key point.
Okay, I've been shown a huge sign saying stop, so I have to just thank you, Senor Planas, for your time today. It's been a really interesting discussion covering lots of things, so thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks to you and to the summit. Thank you.
Okay, great. Our next panel discussion will be entitled Unpacking the Green Deal in Agriculture from Rhetoric to Reality, and that will start in around 5 to 10 minutes, so stay tuned. Thanks very much.